Hi, it's Mr. Mac, and we're in the kitchen today to do some science, and we're going to find out about indicators. And we're going to boil up some red cabbage to make an indicator. The chemical in the cabbage actually changes colour whether something is acidic or basic. And so we're going to use that today and investigate different materials and different substances that we can find around in the kitchen and test them for whether they are acidic or whether they are basic.
Have some fun in science. Watch Mr. Mac's Physics channel. He can explain things really well, and is great to watch.
You also need to have some materials to test. So I'll take you through some of the things first before we actually get going with the actual experiment. So if you've got some vinegar in the pantry, we'll need that. If you've got a lemon, then we'll need to squeeze some lemon. Of course, there's tap water and milk, and if you've got some bicarb of soda. Now, bicarb of soda looks a bit like that. If you've got some of that in the kitchen, just a teaspoon in water, stir it up so it's ready to go. Detergent for dishwashing liquid, you don't need much of that. Also, if you have some fizzy, like I've got some soda water there, then that's ready to go and test. You don't need all of these, okay? So I've just gone and grabbed everything I possibly can. I've got some salt, dissolve some in water with a teaspoon. Best to warm up the water somehow, perhaps boil up from the kettle first. If you are boiling up the kettle, then make some black tea and some black coffee, and we can test those as well. Now, there's a few things I want to step you through, so I'm just going to turn the video down to have a look what I've prepared here. So first things first, make sure the area is clear of things that you don't need. I'm just going to turn that up a little bit so you can see everything here. So we need a saucepan, obviously, and we need a sieve or a colander. Okay, so a colander is used for pasta, but you might have a kitchen sieve. It might be a big one like this or a smaller one. You'll need some sort of container. I've got a metal bowl, but you can some sort of container to pour hot liquid into so that it cools down, and a jug. Now I've got a nice Pyrex jug, but you can use any sort of jug, even a plastic one. Once things are cooled down, that'll be useful for pouring our indicator into the test items. Okay, down here, and I will tip the camera down a little bit more. You'll also notice I've got the chopping board. I've got a very sharp knife, got some red cabbage that I bought, and we're going to be using this to chop up and get some water. So water in the saucepan, and I'm going to turn it on. Now, before we actually get started with heating or chopping or anything, I do need to take you through a few things to do with a risk assessment. Now, just remember, there are 3 columns for a risk assessment. You must identify the risk. You must work out its relative rank, whether it's likely to happen, whether it's dangerous, whether it's going to cause first aid or something worse. And sometimes we give that a number between 1 and 6. 1 is the most riskiest, and we don't do it, okay? Nothing in the kitchen is a HAZPAC rank of 1. So usually we're looking at 3 for hot liquids and so on. So you need to construct that, identify the risk, work out its rank, sometimes called the HAZPAC rank. So that's its likelihood and whether you need first aid or more. And then some way to prevent the risk or to mitigate. Mitigate means reduce the risk. And you need to write those things. A nice way to do it is draw up a table with 3 columns. And here are some of the risks. Look, I've got a risk right here, which is my tie. And there are a couple of alternatives. One is I could tuck it in, or I can take it off completely. For those of you with long hair, obviously tie it back. Same as if you're in the science lab, you really need to make sure that you are working in a safe environment. The other thing is when we're dealing with hot saucepans and so on, I'll just tip this down so you can see. Please make sure the handle is not sticking out over the edge. Okay, it's important that it's away, but not over anything else that's hot either. So we need to make sure that hot liquids are handled carefully, that we don't make a mess. And if there is a spill at any time, that we get a cloth straight away and wipe it up so that it's not there. If it's on the floor, make sure that's mopped up very, very quickly so you don't slip on it. So these are just normal precautions that you would do without thinking. Well, perhaps we do need to think about it beforehand. And that's what a risk assessment really is. And most of us do it all the time. We call it common sense, but sometimes common sense is not all that common. And that's why we go through the steps. Sharp knife, of course. I've got a very big one here. You might want to use a smaller one for cutting. Keep your fingers away from the blade. This is what you'll be doing with your red cabbage. So just cut it in half, cut it carefully, keep your thumbs and fingers away from the sharp edge. Good tip is to curl your fingers under like that rather than like that, okay? And then chop, and I'm not a chef, as you probably are aware, so this is slow. If you watch MasterChef, you'll see it goes a lot faster. You don't need much, and you can save the rest for a nice coleslaw later. If you've got coleslaw dressing, mix in some carrot, some cabbage, and mix it all together, and it makes a nice salad. Now that goes immediately into, sorry, just adjust that. That goes immediately into the saucepan with some water, and this is where we turn it on and boil it up. Now, it's important that we watch, just like at school with the Bunsen burner, we never leave anything heating unattended, because it will take about 10 to 15 minutes to boil that up so that it gets into a nice bluish color. So once we've boiled this up, carefully, now I did this actually over the sink, but carefully get your sieve, get your mixture of boiled up cabbage, tip it through like this so that the sieve, or the colander if you're using colander, captures all of the cabbage. We don't want that. And then this bowl will sit here to cool down. Now, I've got it on a stove. This is the only hot plate at the front. The rest are quite cold at the back. So they're just going to sit and cool down. Now, as I said, I've already prepared this, as they say. Here's one I prepared earlier. Okay, so what we're going to do is use that to test some of these items that, I'll just turn this around a little bit further so you can see down. And always make sure that when you're starting a new phase that we clear the bench of things that we don't need. So I'm just going to remove the chopping board, starting with the vinegar. Okay, and the vinegar is, I've already poured into this glass here. Let's have a look and see what happens. Okay, quite clearly there's a color change. Look at that. That's pretty amazing. So from the blue color, it's turned into a pink. So that's interesting. Well, we know vinegar is acidic. So that's really important. We'll put that aside. Here's some lemon juice. So I'll just squeeze some juice out of half a lemon, not even half a lemon, a bit less than that. Pour some of it in. And again, it goes this incredible pink color. Okay, some tap water. Now I'm expecting nothing to happen because red cabbage is already neutral, so it's already that blue color. It's just a bit diluted. Milk is going to be interesting. I wonder what's going to happen here. Ugh. Bit of a change of color. We have to identify what color that is. It's not blue and it's not pink. We'll come back to that one in a little while. Let's try this one. This is the sodium bicarb. Okay, so there's sodium bicarb. It's already been stirred up in just normal tap water, and here we go. Okay, now I don't know if you can see the difference. They are quite different colors. Okay, so this sodium bicarb turned a greenish color. This is dishwashing liquid, and it's going to be a little bit different. So let me just test dishwashing liquid. Now that's going to be really hard to determine because it's already a very bright green. But if I let the green settle, you can see the top of it has changed colour. It's not the blue that it started with. Okay, let's try some fizzy. Now I suggest if you've got some fizzy around the home, don't use Coke or Pepsi or cola because it's too dark to see any colour change. So that's why I've chosen some soda water that we had lying around in the garage for some reason. And when I add that, it's turned into a pink. My blue shirt doesn't quite help, but you can see it's sort of a pinky colour. But you'll notice it's not quite as pink as the vinegar. Okay, so it is pink, but it's not quite as pink as the vinegar. All right, let's see what happens then with salt. Now remember, I've teaspoon of salt, stirred it up. Salt's really crazy because usually when we buy salt, it's not pure salt. There's a mixture of other salts in there, and some of them dissolve really well and some of them don't. And so a bit of warm water will help. But let's see what happens when we add our indicator to this one. As I'm expecting, no change. Okay, it's cloudy because of the salt that hasn't dissolved well, but it's the same colour, so it's neutral. Now this one's going to be a bit tricky. This is tea, and what does tea do? Can't tell really well, but tea is mildly acidic, and I can predict that we can't tell at all with the coffee, even though it's black coffee. I'll tip some in. As you can see, well, the froth's gone a bit of a greeny colour, but that's about it. So there we have it, and you can see down here the results. So that's the vinegar, that's the lemon juice, which is a bit pinkier for some reason. That was just tap water, so that's fairly neutral. Not sure what happened to the milk. It's probably that side. The bicarb of soda definitely is there. The dishwashing liquid is also on that side. The salt is about neutral, so I'm going to put that one just behind there. The coffee and tea didn't work really well, but the soda water did, and it's not quite as pink as these two. So at the end of the day, you need to line up the colours like that. So you can see from acid to neutral to base. So we've investigated the pH values for different products in the kitchen just by using red cabbage, boiling it up and using the liquid there and using that to test the pH, and it changes colour. And here's a chart of the different colours and the different values, and you can see at the bottom of each one that there is a number with pH 7 underneath the blue colour, which is what the red cabbage indicator started with. So we've investigated all the different products just by making our own indicator. I'm Mr. Mac. Thanks for watching.